Anyone know what this is?
No, what is that?
Weird.
Do you know what it is, Morgan?
Whoa, it's like a doll of some sort.
Huh. I guess it is a doll, yeah. What do you think it's from?
Kinda looks like a voodoo doll.
Kind of. I don't know. It looks kind of familiar. I don't know what it's from though. Any guesses, anyone?
Wasn't there something about this in like Salem or something way back when?
Oh, the Salem witch trial.
Oh, there, yeah, that is. That's it.
Yeah, where all the young girls pretended that all these people were witches.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Like Abigail and Mary Warren.
And all those other people,
Yeah, we learned that in English class. Yeah, and Judge Hathorne.
And Danforth. But like, what was the end? I don't even remember.
Come on, guys. Does anyone pay attention
No.
in English class?
Well, sometimes.
Wow.
The scene opens and we see Danforth in deep thought. He looks discomforted. Paris enters, nervous and frightened. Paris quickly notifies the judge that Reverend Hale has been talking with the accused. The judge is surprised by this, considering Hale quit the court. There is mass hysteria in the town. Orphans have nowhere to go. Cows roam wild, and doubt has been instilled in the town by a rebellion in Andover. Paris tries to control himself, but he sobs as he tells Danforth that the two key witnesses, Abby Williams and Mercy Lewis, have robbed him and run away. Danforth gives Paris no sympathy, though his face grows with more concern. Hale enters. Hale begs with Danforth to let the people go, for they will not confess. While this is being told, Paris immediately puts his hands on his face. Danforth is suddenly angered and says, "Postponement now speaks of floundering on my part. Reprieve or pardon must cast doubt upon the guilt of them that died till now. While I speak God's law, I will not crack its voice with whimpering. If retaliation is your fear, know this. I should hang 10,000 that dare to rise against the law, and an ocean of salt tears could not melt the resolution of the statues." Paris makes the argument that these three people have great weight in the town yet. They go on to discuss how to convince John Proctor to confess. Danforth thinks on Elizabeth and sends Paris to fetch her. Hale tries to get Danforth to postpone the hangings when Elizabeth arrives with Paris. She is about 12 weeks pregnant. Her face is worn and full of dirt. She is wearing an icy stare and stands tall beside her weakness. Danforth and Hale begin persuading Elizabeth to convince her husband to confess. He makes a desperate attempt by saying, "Beware, Goody Proctor. Cleave to no faith when faith brings blood. It is mistaken law that leads you to sacrifice. Life, woman, life is God's most precious gift. No principle, however glorious, may justify taking it." Elizabeth stands erect. She is trying to hide her thought process, but her face gives away her disappointment. She asks to speak to Proctor. There is a gloomy silence as Elizabeth waits to give her final plea. John Proctor enters sluggish. His eyes are swollen with a reddish tint to them. His face is unrecognizable, and he looks like he has given up. Making up excuses, Danforth and Hale excuse themselves from the room. Elizabeth and Proctor immediately begin to talk. As Elizabeth updates him on all the people who have confessed or died, Proctor is desperately trying to make a decision. One person that strikes him is Giles Corey, who did not die of hate, but was actually pressed to death for contempt of the court. Proctor opens up to Elizabeth, and he tells her that he is swaying towards confessing. Elizabeth is torn. She wants Proctor to be alive, yet she would rather have him die for his basic principles. Proctor's trying to fulfill his last dying wish of forgiveness. Elizabeth pours out her heart by saying, "John, it come not that I should forgive you, if you will not forgive yourself." He's taken aback, and there's a pain looked on his face. He turns from her a little. "It is not my soul, John. It is yours." He stands in a great deal of emotional and physical pain. Looking about the room, as though his answer will be written on the walls of where so many were doomed. Elizabeth is now slightly giving in to her tears as she says, "Only be sure of this, for I know it now. Whatever you will do, it is a good man does it." He turns to her, looking in her eyes. She goes on, "I have read my heart this 3 months, John. I have my own sins to account for. It is a cold wife that causes her husband to commit lechery." Proctor denies her claims, making it seem like he is the worst person. Danforth and Pears enter in the heat of the discussion, asking for a confession. Proctor says that he will give them a confession, and Danforth and Pears rejoice. Proctor answers their questions and endures the tempting and mockery. When Proctor thinks it's all finished, Danforth makes him sign a confession. Proctor signs the paper. Danforth reaches for the paper, but Proctor is too quick for him. Danforth explains that the public needs to see this confession on the church door, and Proctor, angry, yells, "You will not use me! I am no Sarah Good or Tituba. I am John Proctor. You will not use me. It is no part of salvation that you should use me." Danforth tries to explain that it is no different if they have witnessed it versus having it written upon the door. Proctor returns with the point that if it is written upon the door, he has sold out all of his friends. Danforth does not understand why Proctor will not give the confession up, and Proctor speaks as though his soul is being ripped from him. "Because it is my name, because I cannot have another in my life, because I have lied and I have signed myself to lies, because I am not worth the dust on the feet of them that hang. How may I live without my name? I have given you my soul. Leave me my name." Danforth immediately says that he will not deal with lies. He needs an honest confession or Proctor goes to hang. Proctor stands tall, crying in spite of it all, and slowly tears the confession in half. He is pushed out of the courthouse, kicked and shoved constantly. The sound of drums can be heard off in the distance as Proctor advances towards his death. Elizabeth grabs the floor as though for protection and weeps as the sound of the last drum dies.
So what happened? Well, John Proctor is then hanged.
Aw, that's sad.
This story kind of creeps me out a little.
Yeah.
How about we just
Yeah, put it back.
Yes, yeah,
Leave it here. Leave it in the rest of
Let's go now.
Let's go.
Woohoo! Goodbye. You are the weakest link.